The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.
The world's leading non-profit organization, International Budget Partnership, responds to the recent events in Georgia. According to the organization, they are deeply concerned about developments in Georgia last week, where the national government has cracked down on thousands of people peacefully protesting a draft law that would restrain the independence of the country's vibrant civil society. International Budget Partnership notes they are thankful to see that the Georgian government has dropped to the draft law after widespread condemnation by the Georgian people. However, we were disappointed to see the Georgian Prime Minister misunderstood the country's ranking in the open budget survey to justify the law. We want to be clear about what the survey measures and what it doesn't measure. The open budget survey measures transparency, oversight, the formal public participation in national government budget processes. Georgia's score means that the government released timely and comprehensive information in their key budget documents. However, this does not mean that Georgia is fully transparent, accountable, and inclusive with its public outside the budget process, the document reads. Decision on the withdrawal of the draft law in the given circumstances was the most prudent and wise decision in the context of statehood, as we on the one hand demonstrated that nobody will ever be given a chance of destabilization, and on the other hand we said that we were aware of their very offensive plans, Irakli Garibashvili, Prime Minister, said. As the head of the government noted, opposition aimed for chaos and permanent destabilization and disorder to be maintained. They might have killed several young people themselves to ensure this. According to the Prime Minister of Georgia, by withdrawing the draft law, the authorities safeguarded the stability and peace in the country. We said that with this step, we cared for the most valuable asset of our country, stability and peace of our country, and refused the war. We refused the war policy, which was their key goal in holding these roles, concluded Irakli Garibashvili, Prime Minister of Georgia. The Minister of Economy and Sustainable Development, Levan Davitashvili, said after the end of the government meeting that food prices started to reduce and the trend would continue further. According to him, the task of the government is not to restrict business but to create a competitive and effective environment. Our task is not to restrict business or to impose any type of obligations. They are not fair, although it's important for us to create a healthy, competitive and efficient environment. Of course, the competition agencies involved in the process, which conducted some researches and made an analysis and shared this information with the business. You have seen the trends that has already been reflected in the prices. A lot of organizations have started to reduce their prices. There will be a lot of promotions on various food products. We hope that this trend will continue and this will be reflected in the final inflation figures in February. We hope that the inflation rate will decrease further in March, said Davitashvili. According to the minister, food prices will continue to decline. Georgian Parliament Speaker Shalva Papuashvili said the Parliament received the opinion from the Venice Commission regarding the law on de-oligarchization and law on common courts. We have already been given these conclusions in advance. As for the law on de-oligarchization, as you remember, there were two issues discussed during the political discussions. One issue was whether it was translation of the Ukrainian law, and the second, whether Georgia had the right to adopt the same law which is in Ukraine, given the context. It certainly sounds like the same discussion that we had on the foreign influence laws, said Papuashvili. According to him, the Venice Commission does not object to the adoption of law on de-oligarchization by Georgia. As for the amendments to the law on common courts, the Venice Commission does not have any comments regarding the amendments that we have adopted, Papuashvili said, adding that the Commission provided additional recommendations that would be taken into account. Government delegation of Georgia and the United Arab Emirates on Wednesday met in the Georgian capital city of Tbilisi to launch the third and final round of their negotiations on a free trade agreement between the states, the Ministry of Economy of Georgia announced. Georgian Deputy Economy Minister Gennady Arveladze said the agreement would open the United Arab Emirates market and its 10 million consumers with high purchasing power to Georgian exporting companies. The agreement will cover trade in goods, rules of origin and procedures of origin, customs administration and trade facilitation, sanitary and phytosanitary measures, technical barriers to trade, trade protection measures, investment, trade in services, digital trade and other issues, Arveladze said. The state body announced the negotiations would be concluded on Friday before the signing of the deal at the later date. Tbilisi City Hall will activate 2 new programs for the replacement rehabilitation of old buildings in the historic districts of Georgia's capital, Tbilisi. Mayor Kakakaladze announced at the city government meeting. According to Kakakaladze, no buildings of cultural heritage will be replaced. Therefore, the Municipal Development Fund will be involved in their reconstruction. Based on the first program, a business sector with the consent of property owners will carry out the reconstruction works in line with the detailed project and budget determined by the Development Fund. In return, the City Hall will issue planning permits to the business persons on the land plots located outside the historic areas. According to the second program, the property owners will allow the City Hall to ensure the selling of auctioning of the property. The Tbilisi Hall will dispatch experts to determine the value. Then the property will be sold to the interested persons at the highest proposed price. The City Hall will cover the expenses of auctioning and the related procedures.